We're joined now by someone who's played a long role in our politics himself, and someone who perhaps was often on the opposite side of many debates from Jackson Mthembu. I'm talking about Mmusi Maimane, who joins us now. Mmusi, good afternoon to you. How will you remember Jackson Mthembu?
Yeah, it's afternoon, Stephen. You know, I think all of us as South Africans are shocked. In many ways, we're in disbelief, and in more ways, you cannot find the worst timing for something such as tragic and as deeply sorrowful as this one to occur. Jackson, I worked with, we fought, we laughed, when his daughter passed away, we cried. But whilst we may have found difficulties sometimes even in parliament, I never ever questioned his love for our country, and certainly never questioned his view on the big picture and working together for our nation. And I can't help but feel that South Africans, it's death, be not proud. This is a great robbery.
He was someone, I mean, you speak about the constructive role that he played. I mean, in some ways, you and his job were to oppose each other. That's what you were supposed to do. And yet I can see just from the way that you're speaking, from the look on your face, that you had great respect and I would say deep affection for the man.
I did, you know. There are very few politicians who sit on the opposite end to you, that you know that when you speak to them, you're dealing with a genuine human being. You're dealing with someone who whatever happens at the end of that call and whatever you agree on, that's what will stand. That even though he was a very smart politician, he became someone you could trust and work with. And I'll never forget the times where we've had to sit together in trying to negotiate some of the difficult decisions that took place in Parliament, how Jackson seemed to always stand firm and speak, and you could stick to a deal. So I can't help but send my deep condolences, not only to his family, to Parliament in general, to Cabinet, to his political party, to President Ramaphosa. I'm sure they work together. And I know for me, to lose someone like that is a loss for our country. It's a loss for his party. And I think South Africa mourns deeply for someone today.
In some ways, I think perhaps one of the lessons that Jackson Mthembu leaves us with is how important it is to be honest, even in politics, something that's supposed to be almost inherently dishonest. Honesty can actually help you win in the longer run, especially if you're trying to be constructive. And I think in his case, he was negotiating, he was talking, he was, whether it was with the media, whether it was with myself or Spoor or Zeanda, or whether it was with you as an opposing political leader, as you were at the time, he was someone who believed that you could get things done if you behaved in good faith.
You know, I can share, there was a time when there was a scheduled motion of no confidence in Parliament. I'd moved it, and it was important in a time in our country that it was debated around about the same time as President Zuma wasn't coming to Parliament. And then the ANC experienced a death. And I remember calling Jackson. I said to him, I understand how the caucus is feeling. I'm going to move that we postpone the motion because what you are going through is far bigger than maybe some of this debate at this point in time will defer it. And the humility and the honesty with which Jackson engaged even that interaction and then retorted back to me to say, and I think that began our long-term relationship. It almost built a renewed bond that even though publicly we were adversarial, when matters such as this one came on board of humanity, and I think what you call the honesty, also you could never deny the humanity of Jackson. You could never deny the fact that he was honest about his own shortcomings, which is a powerful, powerful tool if you get it right without being dishonest to people. You can simply demonstrate to citizens that we are human beings, we share common hurts, we share ambitions. And as I say to you, that when I got the news this afternoon, I was shocked and gutted. Absolutely, I feel like someone hit me when you realize that even though this person I said so often opposite to, but you do feel that we've lost a national ally in the project of building South Africa.
Now, Mmusi, you talk about the period, the difficult period where there were those motions of no confidence that you moved as the opposition leader. Yet, towards the end of 2017, we know that Jackson Mthembu was no longer agreed with President Zuma in terms of his leadership in the ANC and in the country, but yet he would stick to the ANC position to say that ANC members must not vote with the opposition. Talk to us about that period and also what that tells us about Jackson Mthembu.
Look, there was never a day I doubted that Jackson Mthembu was an ANC member in good standing, as the saying goes. And there were times where I knew that even in the midst of that time, at one level, he was very deliberate about saying to people that the ANC needed to vote collectively. But at the same time as all of that, I think I'll never forget, I used to use his own quotes against him when he was critical of his own party, which always used to get under his skin when we get into parliamentary debates, where I'd be able to stand up and say, but Mr. Mthembu, you yourself used the following words in describing President Zuma. So I never questioned his loyalty to the ANC. Neither did I ever ask him for that, because at times, even when we had meetings together, he would meet in the Chief Whips Forum, but we could meet with the president when President Ramaphosa was elected as leader of the opposition. He stood for the ANC, and he knew that the project of the ANC was going to be important, as I knew that we needed change. But we never, even as adversarial as that and as different as that, we would sit in the same room, laugh, talk, disagree, but whatever, we at least found some common spaces around, certainly around the passing of the gender-based violence fund that eventually came on board. We were able to say, we'll work on this because on this one we agree. So I respected him for that, and I think it's a way to deal with the right type of citizens you want to work with, the kind of people that you know where they stand and they don't compromise, but they are willing to hear a differing argument. And I think the world can do with more of that. So we need to be able to, whilst I stand for my own principles, hear from other people. And certainly Jackson is one of those. I certainly, even as I sit here now, miss his deep laugh when we would even find common situations funny. And sometimes we'd look at each other across the aisle in Parliament and say, you need to go negotiate this outside so that we can decide how the program could work. And he'd be quick to always be willing to cross the line behind the chamber. The amount of meetings we had behind the seat in Parliament, I can't count, but certainly a person who you could know, you could deal with. And even at that time with Jacob Zuma, I think he understood that there was a long-term project, and he always used to keep saying to me, Mmusi, but wait, as a party, we are dealing with this issue. And I was like, I'm becoming impatient with your party, and so are the people of South Africa.